OLED is not coming to iOS devices. Tons of Retina apps for iPad. YouTube 3D explained. Thirsty Bags by iFixit is a winner. And Thunderbolt still not fully baked into OS X. It's Tuesday, April 3rd, 2012, and this is iWake. I'm Tim Chaten, and this is what's going on in the Apple world today. Good morning and welcome to another edition of iWake. Today is a bit of an odd day where there really isn't that much news going on in the Apple world. So the format today is going to be a bit different. Here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to open up with a Linkbait Alert that kind of showcases the crap that blogs are running out with these days and just posting when there are slow news days like today, and just kind of emphasize what I have to go through every single day of doing the show. Then I'll move on to the slew of apps that got updated for this new iPad with Retina display capabilities, and close out with a couple different things I've been playing around with, including YouTube 3D, iOS devices in water, and Thunderbolt on the Mac. So should be a fun show, and let's get on to it with Linkbait Alert. So today on the Linkbait Alert is the ever-present OLED post that tries to showcase why Apple will move away from their dazzling and magical Retina display to an OLED display. The post I referenced today comes from 9to5Mac. It begins by saying the Korea Times reports that Apple may consider moving its displays over to OLED from LCD. So first off, before we get too far in this article, just because a publication comes from the Far East doesn't mean that they know any more than you or me. If they're from the Middle East, if they're from China, that doesn't mean they have some wealth of knowledge. They have the same information we do. Whether it's DigiTimes or Korea Times, they don't have any magic pixie dust that give them super powerful wisdom or some magical crystal ball. It is not news when somebody predicts something obviously false for those covering the Apple world, such as myself, and it's pretty obvious to see how OLED will never make it into the iPad or iPhone. So the only reason that Korea Times believes this is that there's finally enough of OLEDs available through Samsung. If you look at what Apple makes, though, you would figure that's not the case, though. That it's not a problem for Apple as to how many displays there are, because if Apple wants it in their devices, Apple will get that done and make that happen. So that's not the problem. OLED lost out to IPS technology and LCD for several reasons. First off is the viewing angle. It's not nearly as good as IPS. OLED screens also don't behave very well in varying weather conditions. They break very easily when you go from hot to cold, things like that. And also in the sun, they're even worse than LCD, which is something the Kindle would just try to kill Apple with as well. And the screens die at a quicker rate with burn-in and things like that that have plagued CRTs since the beginning, that have finally been fixed in these later years, but we're not using CRTs anymore. So another note about LCD OLED, is, if I'm not mistaken, it's more power intensive, so the screens are simply, quite frankly, not all they're cracked up to be. And even if Samsung can create enough, it doesn't mean that Apple will actually use these things. So in the slow news day, this is what I have to deal with. If you know about Apple, you know OLED is never going to come to iOS devices. Never say never, but in the current, present, future, they won't. Any Apple blog that proclaims OLED is coming simply does not understand the very subject matter they are writing about and being paid to write about, and misleading their readers as well by saying these things. So in a slow news days like today, this is kind of the kind of stuff I have to put up with. And not even on slow news days. This happens every day of the week. At least 90% of the news posts, so-called news posts I put up with, are junk like this one's by 9to5Mac that simply aren't news. Now onto some happier news, is Retina apps. The first up is Air Display, and it's for the new iPad, and it's out, and it's, as reported on my iWake many weeks ago, it supports full resolution of this Retina display for the iPad, and that's a remarkable thing, because the full resolution is about an iMac, a 27-inch iMac worth of pixels. But also, the app got HI DPI graphics, which is basically Retina for the Mac. This lets you take advantage of a built-in feature that's never been available because there hasn't been displays capable of doing this. The feature lets you have Retina graphics, so the built-in Apple logo and all the text is retinized for the Mac, and that's a cool thing. The app's out and the update is out now, and it costs $10. Next up in Retina app news is an update to the venerable Mac Tracker. Mac Tracker is a simple app that catalogs every Apple product ever made and lets you look up specs and information about old models of Macs, iPhones, iPods, Newtons, and even old Apple printers. Version 2.0 adds the following. First off, iPad with Retina graphics. It adds the new iPad and Apple TV to the list of products available. And it also includes a bunch of iPad-only features, such as history information for most Apple products, such as from the applehistory.com, the Apple Museum, Andy F. Meza, and Wikipedia. It adds memory upgrade instructions to recent models of Macs, and adds info on available firmware updates. You'll need the iOS 5 or later to install this update. It's free and available right now. Next up is Wired Magazine. They've updated their app to support the Retina graphics, and this is the first of what will become many that will start outputting their magazines in Retina quality. I noticed a few others doing this, and it's good to see. I'm curious what kind of file sizes we'll be dealing with. Other notables include Facebook, Pianist Pro, TallyPad, Google Search, MLB at Bat, SoundHound, Pinball HD, Quick AdSense, Google Reader, and Kayak Mobile. Those have all been updated for the Retina display. I'm sure there's many more. Now onto the various things I've been playing around with, and quite frankly, this should be a fun part of the show. First up is YouTube HD. So some backstory here. GoPro, the guys over there that make the cameras, sent me an extra GoPro 2 and a bunch of gear. A part of this gear that they sent me was a 3D system that lets me hook up 2 GoPro 2s to shoot 3D footage. It is a really sweet system that outputs some amazing looking footage that I'm able to edit in Final Cut with this pretty sweet plugin I'll talk about on a future show. With that said, I've been playing around with 3D video recording, editing, and now uploading YouTube video. So today I'm going to focus on the YouTube part and the uploading and how that all goes. So YouTube does a cool thing that manages to output a variety of YouTube formats from a single upload. So you don't have to upload 5 or 6 formats. You just upload this one thing and it's good everywhere. As long as you upload in side-by-side mode, your video will be viewable as anaglyph colors and shutter glasses and all sorts of other viewing modes, even some that don't need glasses. So it's a pretty cool thing that YouTube's able to do, and something that would have taken me hours upon hours to output in those formats. Also to note is YouTube does these specialized enhanced colors to make the 3D work even better when you view it on YouTube. So some people I've noticed when I've been browsing YouTube are uploading straight anaglyph color. It makes it really easy to view on iOS devices, but really isn't good moving forward because people will be moving to other formats of 3D, such as what we have in the movie theaters these days with passive and shutter glasses, things like that. So that's something to note here. And something also to note is Flash is kind of buggy. So right now it's still kind of beta-ish. And I've had Chrome crash in my 3D videos, sadly. So a lot of this is still early phases, but it's cool stuff to see. And I believe it is going to be a big thing going forward for YouTube and kind of the future of web entertainment, because these anaglyph glasses and other 3D technologies are really easy to implement for me and for others to watch it, actually. So the benefit of uploading to YouTube is I can just use this side-by-side mode, which is a lot easier for me to encode myself, and YouTube can actually output that as 2D by just providing one of the eyes, the left eye typically, and provide a viewing option for those without 3D glasses in that 2D mode, and also a cross-side 3D mode if you want to do that. So basically, uploading in YouTube's preferred way is an amazing thing. It makes it dead simple to provide really cool 3D footage, and I've been impressed pretty good so far with this. And right now I'm using anaglyph colors to work on these 3D footages, but hopefully I'll get a 3D monitor from some sponsor in the future so I can actually look at what it is for the really high-end 3D stuff that I'd love to do one day. So bottom line, YouTube 3D, cool thing. I'd encourage you to buy a pair of 99-cent anaglyph glasses on Amazon or something like that to experience the fun videos being uploaded to YouTube every day in 3D. I'll be pushing out more and more 3D footage as I play around with this GoPro 3D system, and I think it's a pretty cool thing. So with that said, I don't want to spend too much time on there. I know I rambled on for a little bit. I want to move on to my pretty happy result with my water incident. As many know, I had an iPad 2 and an iPhone 4S in my backpack when I slipped and submerged in a hiking trip in a river, actually. So I happened to get those fixed, not through Apple or anything, but just by luck. My iPhone was saved by the Thirsty Bag by iFixit, which runs $10. I happened to have one on me at this time, and thankfully it was at the very top of my bag and didn't get wet. So I threw this right in the Thirsty Bag right away and let it set for a day and a half, more than the 24 hours they suggested, and it works now without a hitch. It feels like it's a brand new phone. I don't even sense that there's dirt or anything inside from the muddy water that was probably a part of the water I had inside there. So my iPad 2 was a bit more scary. I didn't have a Thirsty Bag because they don't make them that big, and initially it would boot up, try to boot up until the battery died and never achieved that. So it would boot up for hours on end without turning off. Then it would boot up and go crazy until it finally fixed itself. So I got it fixed by just leaving it alone, and eventually it started to work again. But basically my lesson here is be super careful with your electronics, as they're not designed for water quite yet. And hopefully Apple is working on this, because I'm sure I'm not the first that has had issues like this, and I'm probably not the last. Water is everywhere, and not everywhere, but water's around, and it'd be great if Apple could figure out a solution for this. So I'd say just be prepared with a Thirsty Bag, even though you, like me, may think you're super careful and things just don't happen like this, but they can. So closing out the show today is a bit of Thunderbolt-related news. Stuff, I should say. First off, I managed to get one of those Seagate GoFlex Thunderbolt adapters. They're actually at Apple stores, a lot of them just sitting on the shelves with no one wanting them. And they're pretty nifty. They're sold out pretty much everywhere online, and you could probably make a business of buying those and selling them for an increased rate on eBay or something if you wanted to. So they are designed to work with the GoFlex, but work out of the box with any SATA 2.5-inch laptop hard drive. I discovered in this process that Western Digital, however, has gone stupid over the years and now ships its drives for the Passport proprietary connectors that are USB 2 only and not SATA compatible. So if you're buying a Passport drive from Western Digital, just be aware of that, as I was pretty peeved and angry about that find there, because I was hoping to use this 1 terabyte drive with this, but now it's just a stupid USB 2 drive that has no upgradability. So the actual adapter is pretty awesome, and I'm getting some pretty startling speeds from it, around 100 megabits up and down, and that's pretty cool from a MacBook Air that doesn't have anything except Thunderbolt and USB. Thunderbolt is right now the only fast in and out of a MacBook Air, and it's giving me some pretty cool options for editing Final Cut with this external drive. Now, before closing out, I just wanted to mention that Mac OS X, or OS X, still doesn't have a Thunderbolt icon for Thunderbolt hard drives. It currently gives you a blank hard drive icon that doesn't inform you what kind of connection it is. So it kind of feels like Thunderbolt right now is still being baked into OS X, and it's not quite there. Even though all the functionality is there, the icons and all the prettiness isn't there like it is with FireWire and USB. Hopefully that changes with Mountain Lion, or something just fixes that in the future with the minor software update. So that's what's going on in the Apple world today. This is kind of crazy news day of nothing going on. If you like this show, head on over to iTunes to leave a review. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/TCHATEN. That's where I post all my video versions of iWake and do quite a bit more 3D footage. I do GoPro hike videos and tutorials and just tips and tricks all over the place. So check out youtube.com/TCHATEN. Also, iWakePodcast.com/again for my Saturday show, where I just have discussions with various people about the Apple news going on and some different things. It's a longer format show, and it's a way you can support this podcast. So iWakePodcast.com/again is how you sign up for my Saturday show. Join me tomorrow for another edition of iWake. Aloha.